He was evil, Mulder. I'm sure about that, without a doubt. But there's one thing that I'm not sure of.
What's that?
Who is at work in me? Or what? What made me pull the trigger?
You mean if it was God?
I mean, what if it wasn't?
Hello and welcome to Most Unwanted, an X-Files podcast. I'm Chex, joined as ever by Luke. How are you doing today, Luke?
I'm not too bad. We had a few hiccups to try and get into this, but we're going there. That's all that matters.
At least it wasn't as bad as the last time when we were both recording just a completely separate podcast.
Yeah, basically, yeah. But yeah, so it's all good this time, and it's been a hectic week for both of us, I think. So it's nice to get a podcast in.
Yeah, it's an hour where we can just have a chat. I've not had that in my life this last week. It just feels like it's constant go all the time. And I don't know whether you might be able to hear this, and I apologize for anyone listening. I've had this like horrible throat for the past 2 weeks now. Just cannot get rid of it, cannot shift it. So if my voice goes all croaky, especially towards the end of the episode, you'll know why. But as always, don't mind suffering for the craft that is podcasting.
Yeah. I mean, we'll try and keep this one brief, I think, or at least the intro brief, and then we can talk about the episode. There is a bit I want to talk about in this episode, to be honest.
I was going to have a suggestion anyway.
Yeah.
I think we should get straight into this episode because I feel like there's some preamble to talk about before we get into the episode, regardless.
That sounds like a good idea.
So let's get straight into it. So this week we're going to be looking at Season 7, Episode 7 of the X-Files. This one's entitled Orison or Orison.
Orison I'm not sure. Orison, I think they mention his name isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely his name, and I can't remember how it's pronounced, so we're going to go for Orison for now. Directed by Rob Bowman, written by Chip Johansson. This originally aired on January 9th, 2000. And it's also a sequel to a previous episode that was in Season 2 of the X-Files. I believe Season 2, I want to say episode 19, but I could be wrong on that.
I can't remember the exact... Yeah, I knew it was Season 2 just from looking at the notes, but as soon as I saw the guy, I knew it was. You know what I mean? Like, he's quite recognisable.
Well, this is what I wanted to talk to you about, but I think it's important to talk about the first episode before we get into this episode.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to lie, don't remember a lot. And this surprises me because we're watching this quite truncated, especially considering, when this originally aired, this would have been over. This would have been about 6 years after.
Yeah, because they mentioned that the crime that he went down for was in 1994. So, and it pretty much is as in its the series is happening in real time, I guess. You know what I mean? This to the year 2000. Well, we just had the Millennium episode. So, so it's all happening in real time. So, it's about 6 years ago as well as 6 years in the actual show. We've watched these episodes in the space of 4 years. So,
I think we probably watched this one about 2-3 years ago.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
And I didn't remember much about it. Do you think this is an issue? Because there's certainly, I mean, maybe when it aired, but there was certainly no previously on X-Files. I'll go through the episode and I'll tell you exactly what I remembered. I remembered them mentioning a death fetishist when they were talking about Scully having the sort of PTSD from when she got kidnapped. I remember the bath, and I only remember the bath because I remember us having the debate about cold water and whether it was better to wash your hair. I remember more our conversation than I remember about the episode.
See,
I just don't remember that much.
I remember this guy being like a serial killer who obsessed over collecting things. To a degree, I think our conversation sticks out more than the actual episode itself. Because I remember the takeaway of that episode is we really liked it because he was like just a serial killer in the end, just this evil man.
You're gonna enjoy this episode then.
I'm prefacing that now before we finish the episode because that might taint my or color my thoughts on it.
I just think it's a very interesting thing to do. I'd be very interested to hear whether there was a previously on, because we've talked about this before. I feel like X-Files does this a lot, where they expect you to remember, and I can't. Maybe we're jaded because of a binge culture that we've got now, and where a narrative is from episode 1 to episode 10. You remember all the characters because they're in your face the entire time. But like, I can't imagine anyone watching this and going, "Oh, this is a follow up to that season 2 episode I've been loving." Do you know what I mean? I can't imagine it.
I think from memory, I think somebody mentioned when we asked about this similar kind, because we've asked about this before, I'm sure of it, and somebody on Twitter mentioned that a lot of the time in the broadcast version they did have previously ons and they sort of recap stuff. But I think we basically get the DVD cut of it where it's just the episode, so it just assumes
it definitely doesn't help. So maybe previously on would change your viewing experience, but for anyone watching it now, I just can't imagine a world in which this is easily put together. Because let's be honest, I don't remember whether I liked the episode or not. I'm going to be completely honest. I'm not going to lie about it. But what I will say is, we're literally taking notes and reviewing episodes, and we don't remember it. Do you know what I mean? Or at least we don't remember it well enough to follow on. And it wasn't that memorable an episode. So as it went on, I sort of remembered the guy, and I was picking pieces of it. But yet, I just thought this is a strange move. But again, maybe a previously on would help.
To be so far away from it as well, because like we've had sequel episodes before, but they tend to be quite close together to the last time. So like we had
iconic villains.
Yeah. So you know we had like Tombs was in the same series.
But you can do that with Tombs because this is okay. Well, all over the place. Do apologize, but with Tombs you can do it because with Tombs, he's the creepy, stretchy guy, and to be fair, he was such a big impact anyway. Like you knew his face, but he was a creepy, stretchy guy. Like there wasn't confusing him with somebody else. The whole point of the last episode with this character was that he was a nobody. He was just some killer that had no powers, no supernatural being, and then they changed that in this episode, so it kind of even detaches it from that anyway. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I kind of want to save my thoughts on that for when we get to the effect. But yeah, there's a lot of negativity from that for changing it. That I mean, maybe other people didn't see it that way, but the reason why I liked the original episode so much was that it was a normal guy. You know what I mean?
I definitely see where you're coming from. I think we should get into this now. I definitely think we needed to have that conversation beforehand. Because I remember like writing notes to this. The funny thing was when at the start when they were saying, "Oh yeah, remember this guy 6 years ago when we put him away?" and I was like, "Huh, maybe they're talking about cases we've not seen. That's cool." and then it clicked and I was like, "Oh, I should be seeing these references," and I wasn't.
See, I did recognize him as soon as I saw him. I knew I didn't know what his name was until I looked it up. Until they mentioned it, but I was like, I recognize this guy. But yeah, I couldn't put two and two together at that point. I'm trying to find out what episode it was that we covered the original. So it was season 2, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Season 2, and I'll cut out this long pause, or do you know what? I'll just ramble over it. So it's
ramble over it. Let everyone have the raw experience.
Yeah. Irresistible, the episode was. So it was season 2, episode 13, and it was episode 41 for us. So if you do want to go back and hear what our thoughts were at the time, go back to episode 41, guys.
It's a good idea. Actually, you can listen to them both in tandem and see how not only the podcast changes, but our opinions get sullied our like view on life. Like it's just very dour now. Like life's got to us; it's chipped away at our positive mentality. You can see we're broken men. We're broken men, and you're all along for us on this ride.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
You were bright-eyed and bushy-tailed back then, Luke. Ready to seize the day.
Well, that was a pre-pandemic podcast as well, so you know, I feel like there was a lot more optimism back
then. But we promised not to let our jaded attitudes affect our review on this episode. Let's get straight to it.
Yeah.
So we started a prison in Illinois, and we see I don't know what you call it, like just a get-together, like a support group, maybe?
Yeah, I didn't know if it was like a prison chapel, but there was like scriptural written on the wall, which I thought immediately was like, is this going to be some kind of like cult thing? Because like you don't tend to see that just, you know, like scripture just written on the wall, like in most churches or chapels you go into. So it did come across as like this weird, like sort of setup that they had.
Yeah. So they're in this, as you say, like this group meeting, and this priest, I never know whether it's priest or vicar or, you know, a religious man is giving advice to inmates of this prison, and he's basically telling them to let the Lord save him regardless of his sins. The Lord saved him, he could save these prisoners. It's the usual preamble, what I would imagine prisoners get all the time who want to sort of turn to faith.
We don't realise at the time as well, but he keeps repeating certain phrases as well.
Yes, and like certain movements as well, certain hand gestures all the way through, which seems to be like getting the attention of a few people in there. Like, I don't think you ever get do you get the name of the guy that's he speaks to first? I don't think I made a note of it.
No, I didn't. I just sort of, yeah, they're like a group of prisoners. I didn't really get their names, to be honest.
No, but there's one guy in there, and he's like loving it. He's really into like letting Jesus save him, and he's like copying all the phrases and whatnot. But then the camera pans back to another inmate, which is Donnie Pfaster, who we've, as we've discussed, we've seen in season 2. And he's serving his time for the events of season 2. And when asked whether he's going to let God save him, he just remains silent and lets the religious man basically talk at him rather than to him.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's pretty much it. And then we move to them working later. And the guy that I said previously, who was sort of very responsive to everything, he's reciting some of the words. He's like lifting his feet as he's doing it, like copying some of the movements. As he's like making basically he's like using like this saw to like cut leather or something like that.
Yeah.
And long story short, we see a little altercation with Pfaster and one of the guards, but that's interrupted by this guy cutting all of his fingers off.
Yeah, not just one, every one of them. Yeah.
I'll get back to that in a second. As the guards run to like look after him, and there's big commotion, time seems to slow down around everybody, but not for Pfaster. Pfaster seems like he's at a normal speed, and he seems to be able to sort of like maneuver around people at will without them noticing him.
Yeah.
So there's a few things I want to say about this. One, sewing machines, or those little saw things that like cut the leather, I don't know what they're called. Have you ever seen any one of these in a movie that doesn't end up piercing a finger or chopping a finger off?
Yeah.
I've never seen a sewing scene where at the end result is a nice hat.
Yeah, I want to know if like this is like commonplace in these, like maybe it is a death trap and like it's constantly sawing people's fingers off, and really we should look at a better way to do this, or maybe we just can't ever see a saw without thinking of a way to mutilate somebody in a film.
I as soon as I saw it, I was like, okay, so I know exactly what's going to happen in this scene.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's a little like we find out later that we got misled a little bit, because what we see isn't actually what's happening, and I'm kind of glad that's the case. And I'll tell you why, because it made no goddamn sense. Once you saw the first finger off, stop.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't continue. And then get your other hand involved.
Maybe it just goes. Maybe it goes so quick. You're like, oh no!
Not through the bone loop. There's no. I don't see any world in which that's one swift movement through both hands.
Yeah,
but it wasn't, which is good. They do address that, so I'm glad that I'm glad it wasn't really happening. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean it's an interesting change to it, and we see later on as well. It happens at another point where it's just people being convinced something's going on. So it's not he's convinced. It's more plausible they can convince you to think something's happened rather than to convince to saw your own fingers off or something.
Both hands, thumbs and all. It makes no sense.
Why is he holding it with his thumbs out?
He has to angle to get his thumbs into the saw.
That's an interesting cut.
I'm to be honest with you, I'm probably going to race through a lot of this plot. So I'm happy to sort of take broader views and have a little chat about this now, which is, what do you think of his powers at this point? Because it's not what I first thought. I watched this and I thought, okay, so this guy can slow down time around him. And that's the, that's the effect that they use to illustrate his powers. But it's not really that, is it?
No, not really. This power thing that he has, it's up and down for me. I like the idea that he can hypnotize people into doing this. That I'm fine with. But it then goes into something later on that is just not needed. The explanation of it all. You can convince me that he can group hypnotize. You know what I mean? That is something you hear about later on, and this is spoiling something, but you find out that he's got some kind of extra oxygen in his brain or something.
Yeah, and that's what drilling into his brain.
I was like, why did we need that? Where did that come from? All of a sudden, that just seemed so out of left field.
I feel like they were still trying to tread the line because they've already had a whole episode where, this is supernatural, it's supernatural. Actually, no, he's just a psychopath.
Yeah.
And that was what made the first episode so successful.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think they're still trying to tread the line of it's supernatural. Actually, no, there's a real explanation for this. And then obviously they throw it way out to left field.
Yeah.
But I think that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to give a scientific explanation to this because they don't want him to be all of a sudden have all these powers. Because why wouldn't he use these powers in the start? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I can understand where they're going with it. I feel like it's unnecessary, really unnecessary.
Well,
yeah.
So basically, we get a little bit of. This is basically the only bit of exposition that we get, unless you had a previously on X-Files segment, which is Mulder and Scully talking about Pfaster, and basically in very, very vague terms, talking about yes, he was a death fetishist. He liked to cut off girls' fingers and keep them as souvenirs. It was only ever girls. They put them away. He put them away 6 years ago. I think one of the things they do well in this episode is instantly Scully goes back to where she was in season 2, and I thought that PTSD storyline of her sort of dealing with her abduction. I love the fact that 4 years down the line and it still affects her the same way, and that is what happens. You know what I mean? That is what happens with trauma. It doesn't just go away. It's not a magic button and you're cured. And so, especially with how far Scully's come, to show that, I wouldn't even say weakness, but to show that trauma can still hit you in the same way, I thought was a very important part to show.
Yeah, and there's some bits as well throughout the episode that I think definitely strengthen that story. I think that's one bit that I did enjoy to a degree, and we'll get to that. There's a few other things as well before. So they were doing this exposition. So before that as well, they had just something to mention. We saw a scene where Scully wakes up and her clock is showing 666 on the number.
Yes, and here's a song.
Yeah. We keep hearing these things as well that are sort of linking it to it. So there's that. I did want to mention as well that the intro, and there's other points in this as well, there was some weird editing. Did you feel like that in the way it was sort of presented?
I can't say I picked up on it, to be honest. No. In what way?
Not in so much as like it was bad. It was just weird choices. So like the slow down bit, like where he walks straight towards the camera, just felt like really strange for X-Files. And there's this production note later on which makes sense, to be honest, like with the way it's sort of done. So there's that. There's a bit later on as well where it hard cuts to stuff like just really jarringly, and I was just like, that seems like so un X-Files, like the way it's doing it. There's some other things as well, but I did notice down there. It just, the editing, just the way it was edited and the way it was presented felt strange for the X-Files, if you know what I mean.
I did notice when he was like walking out of the prison, basically. But to be honest, I just assumed that was like their way of sort of like making it feel weird. Do you know what I mean? To show you that something weird was going on. But I think
that there's definitely an intent there. Yeah, it's just I don't know. It's just from the off. I felt it a bit grating, like the way it was, and then throughout the episode, it was just there was other bits to it as well. There was just like there's just something weird about this episode. It just doesn't click. You know what I mean? For me, anyway.
Yeah. So again, in the broadest of strokes, we've got whilst they're investigating the escape, they also mention that 3 other prisoners had escaped, and the only link between all these prisoners that are escaping was this reverend, this religious man. I think Orison sounds like more like what it was. I'm going to go with Orison instead.
Yeah, I think it was Orison. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but this guy's involved in all of them, because he visited them all. And we learn that ourselves pretty much instantly as we see Orison meeting up with Pfaster in this diner, but not before Pfaster is straight back to his old tricks. Basically, a lady of the night approaches him, and he gets very excited, and probably important to note that she's a redhead, which might come into play later.
I didn't pick up on that, actually. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, but so does he? He doesn't go off with this girl, does she? Or doesn't Orison interrupt?
So Orison interrupts. She bails initially. This again.
And then, I remember. And then she goes into the car. I was like, I remember her going home, but then Orison's there. So I remember now.
This is another reason. Like I'm glad you brought it up. Actually, it's another editing point where I just thought, what is happening here? Because Orison turns up. He's like grilling Pfaster, and she's like a bit freaked out by it. So she's like, "I'm gone. I've had enough of this." Walks off. Then I don't want to like spoil what's happening.
No. This is a joint podcast, dude. If you want to do my job, that's fine.
Then the police turn up, or the marshals turn up.
We get one of them strange sequences again where they are just almost like, I think that they're trying to sort of suggest that God intervenes, and so like this is the first instance where we sort of get an idea of maybe it's not slow motion, maybe it's just got something intervening, something distracting these people, allowing him to escape. But continue.
So that happens, and then they get away. Or Donnie and Orison disappear. Orison, then we see it cuts to him outside looking for Donnie. So it's like, okay, they didn't leave together. Then Orison gets run over, and Donnie and the girl are in the car, and it's like, whoa, when did all this happen? Like it's all so like frenetic and fast, and like there's no like sort of, you don't see where, because she'd ran away, and it's like, well, why has she got back in the car with him again? There's no explanation as to she was creeped out by the situation and then got back in the car with him. Maybe, I don't know, like maybe she needed the money or something. I don't know. It just, that all seemed to just happen so quick. And I was like, what is happening? Like, the story just seems so disjointed at this point. Like, I don't know. I feel like my negativity is running throughout this one. But
that's what this podcast is about. You know what? I pride ourselves on being two very positive people, and we do tend to look favourably on a lot of the episodes. But you know what? You can't love every single episode, and I think I'd speak for everyone when I say we're all going to have different favorites. We're all going to dislike different episodes. If this is dislike, if there's things about this episode that you don't enjoy, you gotta say it.
I'd rather be honest with it, but I was just at this point as well. My note was, what is going on? Because the plot I could follow, but it was just so this, that, and that. And just everything just kept happening. I was like, there's no like path to follow in this. It's just events.
I was just going to say the exact same thing. I didn't get the same sort of reaction as yourself, but I do get the idea of it feeling like they had a timeline of events and then just like drew a straight line through them all, rather than sort of making figuring out a way as to how to make it work.
Exactly. That's what I felt like, and I think there's more added onto this as well as we get close to the end of the episode. It simplifies itself by the end because it takes out this Orison character.
Yeah.
But this at this point, it just felt like two episodes smashed together. You know what I mean?
Yes, I completely get you. I will, however, I feel like you're going to enjoy this part of the episode. After all this happens, Mulder and Scully sort of are investigating. They turn up at this sort of diner. Scully hears the song again, and once again we get another instance of Scully convincing Mulder that this is supernatural. This is definitely a recurring theme now. This happened 4 or 5 times already this season.
Yeah.
I enjoyed this. I'm not going to lie, I enjoyed this side of this episode where, again, in direct, almost sort of parallel to what we saw in the first episode, Scully is adamant and Mulder does not want to hear it. Mulder all the way. He does give this a sort of, like we said, an indication of group hypnosis, and maybe there's a way of getting more oxygen into your brain and being allowed to sort of distract people. But he's almost sort of losing more and more faith in this being supernatural as the episode goes on.
Yeah,
completely opposite for Scully.
Yeah, it's that nice kind of reversal of the roles that we get every now and again, where in this case Mulder is the skeptic and Scully's the believer in all this. So it's a nice. I enjoyed that part of it where it's that sort of flip. But
we've seen that so many times this season. It's I'm inclined to believe now that this is definitely purposeful on behalf of the creators, because this is happening all the time, and I enjoy the fact that after how many seasons we are getting to the point now where Scully is not just a skeptic. She's a logical person. She's very intelligent, and she will pick holes where there's holes to be picked, but she's not throwing the supernatural out of question anymore.
Yeah, I also think she's more inclined to believe in the faith-based ones as well. Whereas Mulder, for all his believing in things, he seems quite atheist in his outcomes. He's well, it's not going to be God, obviously. That's silly. You know what I mean? He's got that kind of mentality. But he's more than willing to believe that it's a werewolf or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
But whereas with Scully, when it's something faith-related, she seems to be the one who's more believing of it potentially having the supernatural bent to it, I guess.
Yeah. I think the faith aspect, the whole faith sort of side of this story is really strange as well, because it's such a complicated issue to address, especially in the X-Files, because every time you do address it, we've spoke about this before, but it's such a wild thing in this world to turn on and say, "Oh, God's real."
Yeah.
It doesn't. It's wild that why doesn't that have a bigger impact on, especially Scully's life? Do you know what I mean? If there's angels and there's God, and it's well, how is Scully's faith going to get rocked again? There's no way. You know what I mean? That's my faith in my car getting rocked. You know what I mean? Oh, does it exist? I don't know.
Yeah.
You've seen it.
Yeah, as soon as you have definitive proof, the faith element sort of becomes shaky, because it's you've already got your proof. So
let's head back to Pfaster. He's finding more redheads. He's calling in prostitutes to come round to his apartment, just waiting for them ready in his underwear.
In his tighty whities.
We get this very creepy scene, which... Oh, by the way, I just wanted to mention, I've wrote down somewhere the song Don't Look Any Further is the song that the Scully keeps on hearing.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was utilised really well as well. Very creepy, very eerie, and I understood Scully's panic, and I thought that was done really well. And again, following that on to this scene, we got the same creepy scene that we did in the first episode with Pfaster, which is this wanting to bathe the women and sort of almost being like submissive almost, and looking at their hands and like appreciating how pretty the hands are and whatnot. But he soon flips when he tries to condition her hair and finds out she was wearing a red wig and she's not actually a redhead.
Yeah. You can tell this is his sort of fixation, this focus, like, because he didn't do that before, did he? Was it redheads before? It's only ever since Scully, isn't it?
I think it's because Scully escaped.
Yeah.
Again, it's tedious. Like it's very it's very like much. That's the way to push the plot forward.
Yeah, I guess.
You know what I mean? Like,
one thing I will say, I thought this woman who comes round is an absolute baller, because she knows straight away this ain't on. This guy's a creep, and she knows straight away what to do. Throw hot wax in his eyes.
What a genius! Absolutely, she just gets out of there.
Biffs him in the head on the sink. It's like, yeah, I'm gone. Like,
I'm gonna say, yeah, for sure. Our Donnie gets a battering this episode.
Yeah, he does. Yeah,
he really does. Plan some play, apparently.
Well, yeah, definitely doesn't. I've got to say as well though, this I'm getting more positives in when I see them.
Yeah,
I do think the guy who plays Donnie, what's his name? It is. Oh, I did have it written down. Oh no, Nick Chinland, who plays Donnie. I do think he plays this role really well. Like in the last episode he did, and in this episode he does this like really. It's kind of like Psycho. What's the killer in Psycho called now? I can't remember. Bates.
Yes.
Norman Bates. He has that kind of like a way about him, like this quite meek, quite gentle, quite quiet, but it's this sort of like hidden sort of monster inside.
Yeah.
And I think he portrays it really well. So I'll give him all the credit in the world for doing this, even if I didn't like the direction of where his character goes.
Well, after a positive,
yeah.
How about we just get straight to where the episode lost me? Because I was enjoying the episode up until this point.
Yeah.
Let's not beat around the bush. Orison basically sort of catch them off guard. They end up in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just put it out there. Basically, Pfaster reveals that he's a demon.
He is actually a demon, yeah.
And he shapeshifts into a demon. Orison loses faith into why he even got him out of prison, because Orison thought that like he was doing this for like God's will.
Yeah, he was basically They sort of explained that he was getting prisoners to escape so he could kill them himself, because he's like kind of like punishing them.
Yeah, but like what I mean is like we never get like an answer of whether he was like a psychopath. You know what I mean? Like whether he's deranged or whether, but it doesn't go well for him because he's broke a demon out.
Yep.
Yeah, this is a bit like the cave and the light for me from a few episodes. I just don't like. This would have been. I would have been fine with this if it had made any difference to the plot whatsoever.
Yeah,
And all it did for me was take away from the previous episode in season 2. I just don't like. It had no relation to the plot whatsoever.
No, 100%. This commits like the cardinal sin of not only ruining this episode, but it's now ruined an episode that we actually quite liked. You know what I mean? By changing that, because it completely changes the. Obviously not. If you watch it in a vacuum, it's fine.
Yeah, but the thing is, the reason why we enjoyed that episode so much was he didn't need to have supernatural powers to be scary. The scary thing about that episode was that someone could do this without supernatural powers, without being a demon. A human being, one of us.
Yeah, and by taking that away, it just turns into just another mediocre X-File. You mean,
evil guy?
He was a demon after all. You know what I mean? It's like, well, that means it's not that interesting of an episode if he was a demon after all. You know what I mean?
This is the thing. Like, yes, I understand you get the without the demon aspect, you wouldn't get like Scully waking up to 666, and
but did that matter?
You wouldn't get the music following it. But yeah, I don't really think it matters.
No.
And then there's the end part with the trigger. I almost feel like you could tell a really good story about PTSD with the same things of like maybe not like a supernatural, but maybe Scully just has like this sort of a song comes on and triggers a memory. You know what I mean? And it just happens to be a coincidence. I don't know, but I just don't think this needed this at all. I just feel like it took everything away from it. I don't know what the point was. This
felt like a last minute change that they just jammed in there. It was like, oh, what if he was actually a demon? And then nobody went, hang on, won't that like you know what I mean? There wasn't enough thought put into it. And again, it's this it feels like 2 episodes in one, because now we've got the Donnie Pfaster is a demon episode, and this one about this priest who is he controlled by God? Is he psychic? Does he have this? Is he just a great hypnotist? All these, it's just jammed them together, and they don't mesh. Other than having the theme of a man of God and a demon, like they don't really have any connective tissue other than just having a similar theme.
Completely agree. I think, we'll get to it. The last line of this show is great, and I think it's really well done, the last conversation between Mulder and Scully, and that definitely validates some of it, but don't throw everything out just for this line. Do you know what I mean? For this little story. Exactly. But let's finish this off, because, like, as I say, it's very straightforward from here on. He phones in, he tells them where he is. Mulder writes the case off, basically saying, okay, this proves he's just a serial killer, there's no X-file. And Scully kind of agrees until she starts hearing the song and seeing 666. We find out that he goes to her apartment later and waits for her. A brilliant, I would suggest, fight scene ensues where Scully batters him, and it's great to watch.
Yeah. I thought this is after we've just had this disappointing sort of bit in the middle.
Reveal.
We have this scene, and there's a scene after this as well where he's running in a bath while he's like,
while she's tied up.
Proper creepy like atmosphere, like, and with the song playing, because that song really did. It's kind of like what was that episode now? Home, where you had that like kind of like jolly sort of song. Sort of permeating this like really dark event, and I thought that worked really well. And the fight scene between the two of them is just really well done. Like the choreography of the actual fight was really well done. And I really enjoyed all that bit up until the very end. And then but that bit was I did think was really, really well done.
Yeah, I very much enjoyed this. It felt like, again, I remember was being a little bit worried in season 1 of, is Scully potentially bordering on being the damsel in distress too often?
That was what I was thinking with this. I was hoping it didn't go that way.
I didn't get that impression whatsoever. If she's getting taken, she's taking you down with her. Do you know what I mean? And she was besting him in a fight. So I didn't get that impression whatsoever. And like you said, it was a very tense scene of like her trying to like crawl through like broken glass to get her gun and stuff like that. While this is happening, Mulder sort of hears the song himself, gets an inkling, and he also receives a message saying, this guy seems to like redheads. So he rushes over, leading to this sort of climax of a scene where Mulder confronts Pfaster. As he does so, Scully frees herself with a gun, points the gun at him. We don't really know whether, like, a light bulb crashes. We don't really know whether Pfaster does this himself. It's sort of left up in the air. All we know is during whatever sort of like thing happens to the light, Scully pulls the trigger and kills this guy. Essentially, this unarmed guy. I mean, I know this guy is a prick, and I know this guy is a terrible, terrible human, but she does kill a guy, basically murders him. You know what I mean? Like, it's still not great.
That, and again, this is another sort of sale point for me, is I know we were doing this story of Scully's PTSD and stuff like that, but this seems to have just come out of nowhere. Like Scully's never, like even when she's pushed to the edge, she'd never kill somebody. You know what I mean? Like it seems so out of character for her to do that. I just thought that like it would have been a much more satisfying thing at the end is if she defeated him and not let him go as such, but still beat him in her own way of putting him back in jail or something like that.
Well, she says during the fight scene, doesn't she, that like the only reason why he's not dead now and he didn't get the death penalty was because she campaigned for him not to get the death penalty.
Exactly, yeah.
So she's shown mercy to him before in the past. Oh, I've got to be honest though, I would completely disagree with that your point of view. If I'm honest, but I still disliked it for a different purpose.
Yeah.
we both dislike it for different reasons. It's the next thing for me that I didn't like. So you get this scene, and again, in a vacuum, I thought it was really good. You've got Mulder and Scully sat on the bed, and Mulder's comforting her, saying, "You can't judge yourself. You know, this guy deserved what he got." Saying all the right things, and Scully basically says, "I don't know. I'm scared because I don't know what's working through me." And Mulder asks, are you scared because you think it might be God? And she replies, "Actually, I'm scared that it might not be," implying that maybe a demon was working through her, and that's why she did what she did. I hate that, like, because that I have the same opinion of that as you, where I'm like, that's not Scully. Scully wouldn't do that. It's so out of character. The PTSD angle, her getting so scared and like after what she went through with this guy, to the point where she squeezes a trigger or she's jumpy, and like as soon as there's a movement, she just doesn't hesitate. I buy that. I like that sort of trauma can do insane things to people. It can make you act in a way that you wouldn't. You can't quantify how that would affect you. But then we seem to be forcing this demon angle into it. It just didn't need to be there. Not in my opinion. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and like I said, it's just it just seems to have just come completely out of nowhere. And like, even if they wanted to include Donnie in it, they didn't need to turn him into a demon. Like, which is a weird sentence to say. This would have completely worked and have had the same effect, and would have been a much better episode if he wasn't a demon. You know what I mean? If he was still just that like creepy, normal human, but an absolute monster of a human being.
Yeah,
like, you can still do all of this, and then at the end just go, like, even if it leads up to this thing going, oh, is he actually? Is there something more to it? No, actually, again, he is still.
There's no way a human being could like go through what this guy's gone through and still be this evil. Oh wait, no, he is just that evil. Yeah, I get that.
Even that would still work better. I don't know if it would have made an amazing episode, but I think it would have made it better than this. You know what I mean? Better than what it became.
Okay, before we get to final thoughts, quick fire. The demon makeup, yay or nay?
Not that bad, actually. I didn't think it was terrible. I didn't.
I'd agree.
The actual effects that they did look fine. It just was silly in like the body of this episode.
Almost like a campiness to it.
Yeah. I don't even know if it was camp because it didn't. It was trying to be very serious. You know what I mean? This is an actual demon. You need to, because this guy's a demon. And it's like, I get it. It's just, I don't know. I can't really put my finger on exactly what it is, but something about it just rubbed me the wrong way.
Okay. So, final thoughts. This is going to be an interesting one.
Yeah.
I feel like some of your, I think you've got some very valid points on this episode, and I think some of your negative points has made me sort of go hard on it a little bit. I actually didn't mind this episode too much.
Yeah.
I didn't see the point in the demon. It wasn't so much as disliking it, as more of like, that just didn't need to be there. And I would have preferred the episode without. But as for the rest of the episode, especially the Scully being almost paranoid, or being like wondering whether she's paranoid or whether these are signs, and the music, the numbers, I actually quite enjoyed it, and I thought the tension was done really well. But I definitely see your complaints, and I can see why you wouldn't. But yeah, your overall thoughts on the episode?
I mean, I didn't hide it so much. I really did not like this episode. This is probably the worst, for me, one of the worst episodes I've seen in a long time for of the X Files. Like, there's just, yeah, like I said, there was some weird editing. The plot just felt uneven. I felt like Scully just. The ending, I just felt like it just wasn't. And I know, like, there's times where people go, "Oh, that's not, that character wouldn't do that," and it's like, well, that's not you've written the character to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like in your head, like it's sort of that fantasy sort of.
But it doesn't feel true to the character.
Yeah. In this case, it didn't feel true to her in what happened. You know what I mean? At the end, like in fairness, I understand. Not like you didn't see it that way as well, but to me, it just felt. I don't know, it just felt weird. And yeah, this just, by changing what Donnie was, it just throws the last one away as well, the last episode of his. So I just feel like on so many levels, this was a massive disappointment. I don't want to go too hard and much harder than that, but yeah, I just didn't enjoy it.
Luke's production notes.
Orison was written by Chip Johannesson, who had formerly been an executive producer on the Chris Carter created television series Millennium. In Johannesson's first draft of the episode, the main antagonist was a prisoner who could stop time. Executive producer Carter, Frank Spotnitz, and John Shaban found the premise promising, with Carter enjoying the story because it bore stylistic similarities to the first season episode Beyond the Sea. Now, I bring what I mentioned before with the episode not feeling right. As soon as I read this, I was like, was this what Millennium was like? Do you know what I mean? Like, if it used, like...
Also, I've picked up from there, it's like, so it was meant to be a stop the time thing?
Yeah.
Which I thought it wasn't. It was meant to be like a perceptive thing.
So, well, they said in the first draft it was stop time.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Yeah,
I reckon they probably like worked on that and then was like, oh, maybe he just kind of feels like he's stopping time.
Yeah.
So
like the way I sort of imagined it is that he's sort of like slipping in between people's perceptions type thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. After reading the first draft, Spotnitz and Carter decided to reintroduce Donnie Pfaster, a character from the second season episode Irresistible. Carter noted that we had talked about possibly revisiting some old monster for this season, and this seemed like the perfect opportunity. In his first appearance, we've already gone through this, he was a death fetishist, and his nature was non-supernatural. Save for the people in the back. However, in Orison, it was decided to make Pfaster a true demon. Shaban explained, we decided late in the process to turn him into a totally demonic character, essentially evil as an entity. So again, decided late in the process. It again screams that they just jammed that in.
Yeah. I can't see the working behind that. I can't see why. I don't know. I wonder, but... on another note, I wonder whether we're going to see more returns this season.
Maybe this isn't the only one, or maybe they they have plans for other seasons to introduce other older monsters. Who knows? We'll see. But yes, it's just seems strange to change that around, or to think that that's a good change for the character.
Yeah.
Who knows? Spotnitz was very excited about bringing closure to the Pfaster Scully story, saying, for me, we really justified bringing back Donnie back with the final act of the script, where Donnie comes for Scully and she ends up shooting him full of holes. The final scene, however, proved difficult to script. Director Rob Bowman noted that the act was a tough scene. Frank and I had spoken on the phone about the dialogue in the wrap-up scene with Mulder and Scully. Even though she shot him in the heightened state, you couldn't deny the fact that she killed Donnie Pfaster in cold blood. How do we deal with that?
Again, I think that's an interesting question. I think the demon just waters it down, though. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's the demon that's left a real sort of sour taste in my mouth. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's the demon is the new ghost of this season. Yeah. Nick Chinland returned to the series to reprise his role as Pfaster. Rick Milliken, the show's casting director, eventually settled on Scott Wilson for the role of Orison, believing he could pull off the dual nature of the character better than anyone else.
I thought he was great, by the way, Orison.
Yes.
I recognised him. And I want to say, is he in Walking Dead?
He looks like Herschel from Walking Dead, yeah.
I think it might be, you know.
Yeah, no, you say that. I think it is him, yeah.
I'm going to double check while she goes through the next point. Bear with me.
Coming back full circle. This probably deserved to be in the intro, but I've restarted watching. Not watching. I've started reading Walking Dead again, but I just thought, I'll just carry on from where I left off. Not a good idea.
No, yeah.
It is like, do you know, in this episode we were like, we couldn't remember stuff from 2 series ago.
Yeah.
I was reading this and I was like, I have no idea who this character is. I can't remember.
It's finished now, isn't it? The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
So I've got all of them. I've got them like in physical copies, and so I've been meaning to do the same thing because I've read the first 2 omnibuses and I want to read the third. But it's like you said, it's so difficult to just pick up the third and then rereading the first 2 is such a daunting task. I'm just like, I'll eventually get to it.
That's the thing. A character dies in it, and I'm like, who was this person again? Everyone's like, I can't believe they died, and I'm like, I don't remember who this was. Yeah. I had to go through like Wikipedia articles to try and figure out who they were, but yeah, not a recommended experience. Was it the guy from The Walking Dead?
It certainly was, yeah.
I recognised him, but I didn't know where until you just said The Walking Dead, and I was like, "Damn, it was Herschel." Yeah. I completely forgot. But yeah, he was pretty good in this. To be fair, that's 2 Walking Dead alumni we've had in this now. We had what's her name as well? The one who plays.
Oh yes,
Angela.
Yes.
I can't remember.
Can't remember the actress's name.
No, she plays Mrs. X. I can't remember her name in this either.
Wasn't it Marisha or something like that?
Yeah, Marita
Kovarobia,
I think.
We are
the worst
X-Files. We are the most unwanted X-Files podcast.
Yes, we're in the that's our tagline, and we're sticking to it. Are you finding out her name?
I will do.
Okay, I'll leave you to it. Yeah. I'll carry on with the production notes. So the episode featured several scenes making use of complex effects, most notably the shot at the beginning where time grinds to a halt. Bowman used several different takes, all filmed at different speeds. They really like that different speed filming this season, don't they?
Again, it's like the you know what it is? It's like me with my ghost shots.
Exactly.
Once you find a winning shot, you've got to get it all you can from it.
You got to reuse that technique as much as possible.
Of course, Rev. I don't blame them in the slightest because I know how that feels. It's a high, it's a rush that you get from like how often do you get to achieve perfection?
Well, yeah, it's very rare in life. The final.
It was Laurie Holden.
Laurie Holden. That's it. Yeah.
That's it.
The final fight scene between Scully and Pfaster, which took up only a small portion of the episode, took over a day to film. Many of the episodes seen. This is a different point, but yeah, it took a day to film that one.
Wow.
Many of the episode scenes were filmed in California. Makeup for the episode was done by John Vulich, who sought to pay homage to the makeup of the original episode. Vulich perused several fan sites and downloaded photos from Irresistible to aid him in the process.
Irresistible? Oh,
that's the episode.
Yeah. I thought like, was he like on a porn site or something like that for the prostitutes?
Irresistible.
Oh God, where did we need to finish this. My mind is all over the shop. I thought, what makeup was there? Like, I thought, I can only think of the demon. I can't think of like.
That's what they meant. Yeah, the demon makeup. Yeah.
I was like, and then you said Irresistible. I was like, oh, maybe like, maybe the prostitutes. Maybe he's taking inspiration from like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's because they had a demon effect in the first episode, didn't they? Like he was. Like, you did see him as a demon, but it was like explained that was like a hallucination or something like that.
Yeah.
So they had that same kind of thing, and yeah. And finally, the song in the episode that Scully keeps hearing is a cover of the song "Don't Look Any Further," originally by the former Temptations singer Dennis Edwards. The production staff went through several cover versions in order to find the right one. According to Paul Rabwin, unfortunately, none of the songs really worked. Rabwin wanted Lyle Lovett to record a cover for the song. I don't know who Lyle Lovett is. It was like a blue link in Wikipedia, so I assume they're a big star.
Okay.
Got a blue link, you're a big deal.
Yeah, true.
But he was unavailable, so the staff asked singer-songwriter John Hyatt, whose version Rabwin later called chilling, eerie, and soulful.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it really worked for the episode.
It stinks.
Welcome to the XXX Files.
This is a tough one. I'm going to say this is as much of a 6 as you're going to get. Wait there, is it 5 or 10 the scale? I can never remember.
10, yeah.
10, yeah, this is a 6.
Yeah.
I didn't mind it, and there wasn't enough bad to like outdo the good. It wasn't mind blowing. It was fine. I enjoyed the episode for what it was. It's a 6. Should we leave it there? What did you give this episode?
I gave it a score. Now, looking at it now, do you know when you do something when you're drunk and you're like, "Oh, I shouldn't have done that." Like that's too much. You know, I was
let's go with it.
I feel like I was drunk on anger this episode, and I was like, I didn't give it a 1 because there was parts of it. I thought the scene with Scully and him in the room was really good.
Yeah,
and I thought like the Scully storyline throughout was interesting. So I can't give it a 1. So I gave it a 2.
Wow.
Looking back now, I feel like I might have been maybe up to like a 3. You know what I mean? Like
okay.
I'm trying to think.
Officially, though, it's a 2. It's a 2.
Yeah,
Officially,
let's keep it as 2. Yeah.
Most unwanted meter. It's definitely a 2.
It's definitely, yeah. I'm trying to think now. Like I'm giving it a 2, but I need to have a look at what I've rated like Space. You know what I mean? The one where the first series one that we absolutely ripped into.
Yeah.
I want to know, or not even that. There was some other ones as well that I really didn't like. I want to know like where I rated them, and would it be worse? You know what I mean?
Eventually, we need to go through all of our old episodes and update the most unwanted meter of like where they all rank in our systems.
Yeah. I think I do think over time, like your opinions on stuff change, so maybe that would, we'd shuffle them around. But at the moment, I've got to give it a 2. I really did not like this episode.
Hey, that's fair, and I appreciate you being honest.
But everybody else out there, they seem to not mind it. With 2,826 votes on IMDb, it has a 7.5, surprisingly high.
Yeah, that surprises me.
I mean, fair enough. Like at the end of the day, like I don't expect everyone to have the same opinions as
it's
us.
like the fun of having old characters come back.
Maybe, yeah. Or maybe people enjoyed like this change to his character. Maybe people are more they accepted it more. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Well, let us know what you guys think. Give us a tweet on Twitter at Most Unwanted Pod. Just search for Most Unwanted, you'll find us. I'd be interested to find out if where people are generally more positive about this, or what people did like. In fact, that's an interesting question. If you did like it, let us know what it was that you liked about it, because it is quite interesting that we're never usually that far off what the general consensus is. That's
the thing, and to be fair, we're usually not that negative on things as well. Like the only few episodes, there's very few I can think of that we're out and out negative on things. So one that springs to mind is that one with the cats at the end. But
there's usually one a season, isn't there?
Yeah.
But do get in touch with the pod. Let us know your thoughts on this episode or future episodes. We'll be leaving it there for this week. Do you have next week's episode's title, Luke?
Yes. It's entitled The Amazing Malini, which that name, was that the name of the... Do you remember that episode? Oh, God. It was season 2 as well.
If it is, don't start quizzing me and make me look a fool.
Do you remember, was it Humbug or something like that, where there was like a magician who came into it and he was like really flamboyant and really like loud, and he was like a bit of a fool character. Do you remember him?
Not really, no.
See, I can't remember what his name was, but I'm wondering if that's the same name, the Amazing Malini. I'm not sure.
I'm sure we'll find out. I mean, again, I'm sure we'll get a little bit of exposition as we go through it.
Yeah.
That's the one we'll be reviewing next week. But until then, everyone enjoy your week, enjoy your weekend, and we shall see you next Wednesday.